What is it? Hello?
My wife, she stopped breathing and trying to do CPR. I can't.
Okay, listen to me.
I need help. This is Dan.
Your name is Dan?
David.
Okay, your name is David? Okay, who is it that's not breathing?
My wife, I'm Shanti.
Your wife is not breathing? Okay, sir, I need you to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Listen to me. I'm going to get the paramedics so we can try and get her some help, okay? Don't hang up.
Alright, I'll just have you come on in here for right now. Sure. Just have a seat. I don't know how long they will be, okay? Did you have...
to use the bathroom?
Yeah, we can go there real quick. Yep, that's fine. Thank you. That's it. Just have a seat there, and as soon as I get here...
On April 24th, 2018, a frantic 911 call came in from a home in the upscale Delaney Park neighborhood of Orlando, Florida. On the line was 50-year-old David Trones, his voice shaky, claiming he had just found his wife, 39-year-old Shanti Cooper Trones, unresponsive in the bathtub. He told the operator he was trying CPR, that the water had been running, and that he couldn't get her to breathe. Police and paramedics rushed to the scene. Inside the garage apartment where the couple had been living during renovations, they found Shanti's body. At first glance, it looked like a tragic accident. Maybe she'd slipped, fainted, or drowned. But almost immediately, things didn't add up. The tub wasn't overflowing like David claimed. Shanti's body was dry, her injuries didn't match a fall, and there were clear signs of trauma to her face and neck. This wasn't the scene of an accident. What made the moment even stranger was the setting. David and Shanti owned a massive house at 218 East Copeland Drive, but it was under endless renovation. For years, they had been living out of that small grey apartment while contractors came and went. Neighbours thought it odd, but nobody could have predicted that one day, Shanti would be carried out of there on a stretcher, declared dead just minutes later. The call that began as a husband begging for help quickly spiraled into the opening of a homicide investigation. Shanti Cooper was the kind of woman who had built her life from the ground up. Born in 1980, she made her career in finance and even started her own company, helping manufacturers streamline their operations. But beyond her professional success, her world revolved around her young son, Jackson, whom she shared custody of after a divorce in 2013. Friends described her as hard-working, loyal, and someone who lit up whenever she talked about her boy. After her divorce, Shanti turned to online dating, where she met David Trones on Match.com. David, originally from Minneapolis, swept her off her feet. He told stories of wealth, millions inherited after a relative passed away, and promised her a life of comfort. Shanti believed him. By 2015, David had moved to Orlando, and together they bought the house on East Copeland Drive. Well, David bought it technically. His name and his mother's went on the deed, not Shanti's. That detail would become a sore point later. David was obsessed with the house. Renovating it became his full-time project, something that consumed him. Contractors cycled in and out, work stopped and started, and still nothing ever seemed finished. Meanwhile, Shanti footed most of the bills, over $250,000 worth, while David, who was supposedly a millionaire, hardly paid for groceries. By 2017, they were married, but cracks had already started to show. Friends noticed David's behaviour, manipulative, controlling, and often childish when things didn't go his way. Shanti, patient as she was, seemed to be carrying the weight of the marriage. To outsiders, the couple looked mismatched. She was grounded, professional, and family-driven, while he seemed to be chasing endless renovations and the fantasy of being on television. That fantasy was about to collide with reality. By 2017, David Trones had one dream that kept him going. He wanted their Orlando home to be featured on the TV show Zombie House Flipping. He was convinced that if cameras came rolling through, their half-renovated house would turn into a masterpiece, and he'd finally get the validation he craved. The problem was, Shanti wasn't buying it. She wanted stability, not a TV spectacle. The house, despite years of work, was still a mess. Gutted in parts, unlivable in others, and draining money like a sieve. David's obsession with the renovation became the centerpiece of their fights. Shanti had already poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into the property, yet her name wasn't even on the deed. She'd sacrificed to keep things afloat, all while David hid behind his excuses and grand promises. Friends recalled how Shanti would vent about the never-ending construction, but David brushed it off, insisting everything was almost done. To make things worse, cracks in their marriage deepened. David had always painted himself as a wealthy, successful man, but the facade was crumbling. He spent more time fussing over the house than focusing on Shanti or their future. He wanted the spotlight of a reality TV show, while she just wanted a home. Behind closed doors, arguments turned bitter. Neighbours heard raised voices. Friends saw the tension every time they visited. David, once charming and full of big promises, was now a man cornered by lies of his own making. And Shanti was getting tired of living in a half-finished construction site with someone who couldn't back up his words with real action. The stage was set. Something had to give. By early 2019, Shanti had finally had enough of David's endless excuses and the strain of living in a half-finished house. What she didn't fully realise, however, was just how many lies David had been feeding her all along. He had presented himself as wealthy, claiming he had money to fund the renovation and their lifestyle. But the truth was far darker. David was broke. Almost everything, the mortgage, the renovations, the bills, was in Shanti's name, or funded by her hard-earned money. Friends began to notice the imbalance. Shanti confided in them, frustrated and exhausted, admitting she was carrying the financial weight of the relationship. Meanwhile, David continued to boast about his supposed fortune and grand future plans. It was all smoke and mirrors, and Shanti was slowly uncovering just how deep the deception ran. At the same time their marriage was collapsing. The couple was sleeping in separate rooms. Shanti, who had once been patient and hopeful, was now vocal about her unhappiness. The tension was no longer subtle, it was explosive. Arguments grew more frequent, and David's temper was quick to flare when confronted with the reality of his failures. By April 24th, 2018, that afternoon, David claimed he had been out walking the dogs and working on the house, only to return and find Shanti in the bathtub, water running, lifeless. Panic set in as he called 911, fumbling through explanations and concocting scenarios in his head about a possible accident, a fainting spell, anything that could mask what had really happened. But when police arrived and examined the scene, the story didn't add up. The tub was dry, her body dry, and there were bruises, lacerations, and clumps of hair missing, signs inconsistent with a simple fall or accident. Neighbours watched as the quiet, upscale Delaney Park community absorbed the shock, whispers spreading about what had gone wrong in that house. David's version of events unravelled under questioning. Inconsistencies piled up from the timing to the physical evidence, yet he maintained his story with a cold, calculated calm. Meanwhile, the mystery of $5,000 and Shanti's diamond engagement ring only added to suspicions, though David continued to insist that burglars were to blame, painting a picture of misfortune rather than intent.
This woman's head being swollen, her eyes being black and swollen, lacerations on her face where the blood has dried this way. Yet she's in a tub supposedly full with water. Clumps of hair missing from the back of her head. She didn't do this to herself, and there was nobody else there. We can forgive people for accidents, for nearly anything. But what we can't forgive is when somebody maintains that lie and that coldness.
The narrative of a tragic accident began to crumble as investigators slowly pieced together David's double life, his secrets, and the control he had exerted over Shanti, and the truth was creeping closer with every unanswered question. David's lies and secrets finally caught up with him. By August 2018, he was arrested for Shanti's murder, her diamond ring recovered in his possession. Over the next 5 years, he faced multiple competency evaluations, a schizophrenia diagnosis, and delays before trial. When the trial finally began in late 2023, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. Sentenced to life in prison, David's obsession with control, deception, and manipulation had cost Shanti her life. Her family and friends mourned, remembering the loving, dedicated mother she had been, while David faced the consequences of the double life he had led, a stark contrast to the passionate, controlling man he had pretended to be.